That's a sick shirt you got there, Steve. I like that shirt.
Oh, I like it too. It's nice.
Should I do the entire episode like this? Like I'm posing for a MySpace pic?
That is too good, dude. That was exactly my first MySpace pic. That's funny.
Oh man, haven't thought about MySpace in forever.
Dude, I tried to
RIP to a real one.
I tried to go find it one time, and I don't know that I was successful. I don't know that it's really able to be found anymore. Although I probably didn't try very hard.
They deleted, yeah, they deleted like most of the profiles.
Okay.
It's a shame. I went back. This is got to be a decade ago or something. Like I went in like a feng shui attack to clean my digital footprint out, and I deleted my MySpace profile. And like 2 years later, I was like, I shouldn't have done that, man. That was such a time capsule of who I was when I was like 18. Yep. Like, there's nothing to be embarrassed, but no one's judging me by the standards of my MySpace page. All I did was basically rip up some old family photos. You know, it's just no reason to send it.
There were pictures on there that was the only place I had them. You know what I mean? So that's just gone now. Like I can never go back and reminisce because, you know, that was like 6-7 cell phones ago, grainy, whatever, you know, and I was doing whatever with it. And that's just gone. It doesn't exist anymore. I think that my cell phone currently probably has like the last 3-ish or 4 cell phones worth of photos because they keep transferring. But way back in flip phone days, I don't have any of that stuff anymore. So that's kind of
you need the ones you took on the Motorola Razr.
Exactly.
That's the stuff that you want to remember.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a Sidekick, and I during that time I flat ironed my hair so bad that I literally damaged it and had to get it cut off. So I used to do the emo swoop, you know, like to the side and everything. Yeah, so
I would have been so jealous. You know, I thought the Sidekick was the coolest phone because it looks like a video game console. I mean, it looks more like a video game console than an N-Gage does. Mm-hmm. So I wanted one so bad. It didn't help that the like one of like the coolest guys in my high school, very like alternative, you know, he's into the bands you've never heard of type of guy. He had a Sidekick, and I was like, man, that guy's just living large. What a life he has.
Coolest guy.
Did you guys have? I assume you did, right? But did you guys have Nextels around? You guys remember anybody with a Nextel? You know what Nextel is?
Mm-mm. I don't think so. I mean, I recognize the name, but I don't think I knew anybody that had one.
I'm looking at a picture. Yeah,
they were bought out by. Right? Yeah, they were. But the big thing was they were bought out by Sprint, I think, or something, or maybe they were bought out by Motorola. But they were like dual walkie-talkie. So
I remember these.
They would go like brr, brr, whenever you click that button, and like that was My mom did it here and there, but it was like a big deal to my dad. Everybody at his work had one. They were constantly like they call it two-way walkie-talking back and forth with you know, buddies of his or work guys. It was just like you did the chirp, and you wait for them to say, "Oh, hey, what?" You know, it was almost like texting in a way. It's just like what a strange time.
You activated something in my brain. We did have these here, and at the time I worked at a grocery store. I was a cashier, and it was always older guys, but the older guys that would come through my line would always have those, and they'd always be like walkie-talkie beep. They'd have like a clip right here or something, and they'd walkie-talkie beep talk to their bros while I'm like ringing up their celery and their 3.2% beer and all that.
Yeah, exactly. That's super good. Have we all been recording? Are we podcasting? That was a really good intro.
I think we are. Yeah.
I'm recording, so I think, welcome to IndieQuest, your celebration of the indie and obscure. Josh, do a better one.
Welcome to IndieQuest, everybody. Okay, hold on. Hey, everybody. Welcome to IndieQuest. I can't even do it now. Welcome to IndieQuest, a celebration of the indie and obscure, your indie game podcast. I'm Josh. That's Seth, and that's Steve. How's everyone doing?
We're doing pretty dang wonderful. Yeah. It's a fantastic day. Beautiful weather here, you know. Got the windows open. It's good times. Good living.
Yeah, it was about 60 here today. It's supposed to be 77 here on Friday, which is absolutely wild times in March, but it's supposed to dip very quickly after that, so it's just a weird blip on the radar, I suppose, but it does show signs that it's going to get greener and nicer out soon, so happy about that.
I was was talking to Leah about this earlier, but you know that feeling when you're like, you've been outside and it's really cold, and then you get like a warm shower or something, and like you feel that like tingling in your entire body as it like warms up and gets up to the right temperature. Mm-hmm. I swear one of the only advantages to living in Minnesota weather is that after like 6 months of winter, the first like 55-degree day basically does that for your mental health instead of your body. You open the windows and like everything is so much more fun. I was playing Pandora's Tower on Wii and I'm like, this is the best game ever. And it's just because there's some sunlight coming in my window for the first time in 4 months. And I'm just like, I'm in a great mood. I'm cracking jokes. Leah's smiling. She's like, man, this weather's got us just perky.
Mm-hmm. I have a hilarious story for you regarding that. I don't know if it's a story, but just something about my childhood. I don't know if I've ever told this before, but for me personally, in the summertime especially, my favorite days, and it's so weird to everybody I've ever talked to about it, me and my brother share this. It is, my favorite days are rainy, cloudy days, and it's because I know I've said this before, but I grew up on a farm. And when it was nice outside, we had to go outside. We were all either working, or if we weren't working, we should be finding something to do with the animals or whatever, right? So when it rained, that was the time when my dad was like, well, can't really go outside, can't work. So yeah, you guys can do what you want in the house. And we'd be like, yes, video games. Like, so it's a strange thing. Now, as I've gotten older, I very much enjoy the sun as much as the regular person, but I still can get down with a nice rainy day because it's like, oh, now there's less that I can do out there. I don't have to feel bad about it, and I can stay in my house and play a game, and I feel good, right?
Yep. No, I'm 100% the same way. I love the rainy day vibes. As a kid, I would just go out in the rain. I wouldn't really care. It wouldn't slow me down too much. But it'd be like an hour of like biking out in the rain, and then I'd be getting cold, and I'd go inside, and now I'm like, oh, what a good excuse to play, 6 hours of Mario 64 or whatever it is that I was going to do. Or what felt like 6 hours, but you're a kid. So it's probably like 1 hour, and that just felt like an indulgence.
Yes.
Yeah.
But still, yes, I still champion the rainy day as the supreme day, even though the first warm day of spring also hits pretty hard.
Yeah. The sun came out to this while I'm working, and I'm like, do I need I have my lunch bag has the sunscreen in it. Is it time? Is it time for the sunscreen? I don't know. I'm a pasty boy, so I don't want to be peeling the skin on the back of my neck in a couple days here, so I had to at least put some on, be proactive. It's already that time of year.
I was watching you, Josh. I was like, Josh is just not going to say anything because he's in the Pacific Northwest, so he's just like, it's just beautiful here every day of my life, and any day it's not, it's just a gentle rain. Right. So I'm always living my best life.
I mean, it's overcast. We have the weeks that it's overcast, but it's still, it's a vibe.
It is. Yeah. I'm going to do a really random recommendation just because I was listening to it all morning and I thought it was really cool. Folks that have followed this show probably were aware we've talked about it before, but there was a game that was set to come out called Earthblade, which has been officially canceled from that studio. It's Extremely OK Games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that game has been canceled. They announced that it's officially no longer in production, which is a bummer. We're all looking forward to it, but they're making the right decision for them. So I'm sure whatever they release next is going to be awesome. But Lena Raine, who is the composer for Celeste, was obviously working on this project with them. And she has gone to put out basically the tracks that were composed for Earthblade that will never see the light of day, just launched on Lena Raine's Bandcamp. And so there's an album of like 8 or 9 tracks that if you follow Lena Raine on like Blue Sky, you can find the link, or it's radicaldreamland.bandcamp.com is their Bandcamp. But I was listening to that soundtrack all morning here while I was like going about my day, and it's got such good vibes to it. Like a nice mix of like, there's a little more sci-fi than in Celeste, but there's certain tracks where you can tell like, okay, this is almost like a Celeste callback melody at times, and just like a real wide range of instrumentation. It's just a great album, and it's cool that Lena put that out for everybody to be like, hey man, this is, I'm sure that she's sad and is kind of mourning the project that isn't going to be. So it's like a nice way to package it up and say, well, here's what I can give you. So I recommend folks go listen to it.
I obviously I love that. That's great that we can go listen to it, but also it makes me feel bad for a lot of people who work on games and put so much blood, sweat, and tears into things, and then they just never happen. And for like the biggest thing is, to me, like, music is something that all three of us really appreciate about our games. So to just never see or be able to hear those games, but also obviously everything else that goes into it, you never get to see this game. People enjoy your game that you spent all this time on. So it's cool to your point, like, we get to actually experience that still.
Yeah, I was listening to it on Friday when it came out. It came out Friday, right? Thursday or Friday, one of the
I think so,
something like that. But I was driving home. I had like a 30-minute drive, so I was just like, let's just rock this the whole drive. And yeah, it's incredible as you would expect. But yeah, it's really cool that we get to actually hear the music, even though sadly we don't get to play the game. So
yeah, in my head I was kicking around. I was like, would I bring this to an OST episode? I was like, that might be a little too cheeky, but I can at least give it a shout out on the podcast and direct folks over to it.
For sure.
All right, do we have much else to talk about at the top? Like, I know there was like the Annapurna showcase and things like that, but that was like almost like right as we posted the last episode. I mean, and I was like, that's like old news at this point, right?
That's how it always happens. Sayonara Wild Hearts is on PS5 at 120 FPS. That's all you really need to know.
That completely slipped my mind. So if we start talking about Annapurna Showcase, I will just sit here because I completely forgot to watch that thing. I do that too often. Yeah.
There was a game in there I'll shout out real quick, is that photography game, Lush Foil. It looks like the nicest graphics I've ever seen in a game. It's like literally like you're walking through the forest taking pictures. So I mean, I'm looking forward to that. I think that comes out in a couple months. That's the one that stuck out in my mind. I'm like, okay, that's bookmarked in my mind. I'm going to play that one when it comes out. So,
heck yeah. I don't even know if I remember seeing it, so I'll have to look it up after this. But
I am looking at it now, and it is absolutely gorgeous. You're right. It looks like real life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just how can games look like this now? That is just wild.
Yeah, it's like one of the nicest like environmental graphics I've probably ever seen in a game. That's an actual game you could walk through, not like a tech demo or something.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's one that I was like, I was like, that it looks so beautiful. I put that bookmark in my head. I'm like, as soon as that comes out, I'm getting that. So awesome. All right, well, there's a thing we do on the show where we bring games to an ever-growing list of recommendations called the Quest Log. What's the Quest Log, you might be asking? I just said what it is. What is a part of the quest log? We have two sections, the main quest and the side quest. The main quest is a game that's easily recommendable. It's a game that's just awesome. It's a masterpiece. You, your mom, your pet iguana are going to have a good time playing it. A side quest, you're still going to have a good time playing it, but maybe there's a couple caveats. Maybe it's not that 10 out of 10. It could be like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Or, it could be just like, this game's still awesome, but maybe don't think about that last half of the game. There might be just something that's a little off about it, but it's still a recommendation. We do not bring games here that we don't enjoy. So who wants to go first today?
I volunteered last time.
I'll go first.
I'm not going to jump in if you guys are more ready than I mean, I'm ready to go whenever, but yeah, go ahead, Steve.
The pregnant pause there. Someone's like checking their podcast app, like, did it die? That's the best.
Yeah. What if I told you that I was like still deciding in my head what game to bring in that moment? Like, churning. But no, I have one that I've brought. All right. For this one today, I'm bringing you a game. I always threaten to do this, but occasionally I actually carry through with that, which is, for whatever reason, I just didn't get around to playing like a hot, fresh new game. There's no 2025 banger on my list. And so I was like, I got to pull one out that I played a couple of months ago and bring it to the show to give folks the opportunity to go check out one that they missed. So, and I was staring at our quest log because I was like, have I brought this game already? I was like, it's going to be really embarrassing if I bring it again. I mean, it would be really embarrassing for someone to bring the same game twice.
You never know.
That would just be shameful. I can't imagine anyone doing that.
To put the same game before everyone's eyes. I mean, how embarrassing.
Well, if that were to happen from someone, at least they were consistent and put it in the same spot both times. They didn't side quest it once and main quest the other time. So today I'm going to bring you a game called NAIAD. Have either of you played it? I know you've probably both heard about it because I talked about it on Polykill, but have either of you played it?
I have not. Is this the mermaid game? Am I right?
It's a water spirit.
Okay.
It's entirely different from a mermaid. All right. I don't even want you to think mermaid. Get that mermaid out of your head.
So for last year's bingo, it would not have counted for the mermaid square. Is that what you're telling me?
Now I'm trying to remember if you ever actually have fins. I mean, this is one that you could make. You could make a compelling case in court, and with a sympathetic jury, it would land on the bingo board. I'll say that.
Okay.
But yes, NAIAD is a sort of like an adventure exploration game. We'll get into what that means. It's developed by Highwarp, which is a solo developer from Spain. This is their first project of theirs that I've played. I think this is, according to their website, like their second commercial project, but not one that I didn't play their first game, and I haven't heard of it before. So I would say this is probably the game that they're more well known for, but Highwarp fans, correct me if I'm wrong. It's also self-published, so Highwarp published it, and it came out December 10th, 2024. So it came out in that void where everyone's locked in their Game of the Year list, and they're winding down into their holiday vacations, and so anything that comes out here, I would say really in December, but especially mid to late December, it's just gone and people don't think about it ever again. And so that's why I think it's a good opportunity for us to go and shed a little light on it and give it a little bit of attention. So I don't always do this, but in this case, I'm going to read the short blurb off of the Steam page, because I started writing my own out, and then I went to the Steam page and I was like, this is just basically what I was about to say, but better written. So the description is: immerse yourself in a relaxing, minimalist, colorful adventure. Flow with NAIAD across a mysterious river and interact with its fauna and flora to discover secrets. Enjoy a wholesome experience with an original and dreamy visual art style. So my interpretation of that is that this is a vibes game. This follows closely behind something like, I would say Flower is probably the closest comparison of anything I've played. But I've brought a couple of these to the quest log before. Games that are not very objective driven. They're certainly not difficult. There's really not much in the way of fail states. I'm trying to think there is technically ways to fail in NAIAD, but it's you kind of got to go out of your way for it. It's more about just the experience of poking around, or in this case, drifting around in the game. So the way that this game is structured, and why we were talking about it being a mermaid or a water spirit, I think it's a river spirit technically, is that NAIAD, the character you control, is this sort of Esper-like female-oriented character, and all your main goal is in the game is to drift downriver. You don't really have much setup, much story. There is a little bit of story that gets added on top. You'll kind of understand more as you go, but you're really just trying to glide downriver. And the way that works is it's set up into a bunch of small little environments that at the very end of them, there'll be a flowing bit of rapids that when you approach that, it'll say do you want to continue drifting downriver? Yes. And that ends the level you're in, and you go to the next one. There's a lot of levels. So, I mean, any given one of those, if you just gun it from the start to the finish, is it could be 20 seconds long. It's really not long at all. But realistically, you're going to spend way, way more time than it takes to just get to the end, because this is the type of game where if you're just racing to the end, you're kind of skipping the entirety of the game and the reason that you'd be playing it. Because what you're actually doing as you drift and swim around these different riverbeds and twists and turns and stuff is you're interacting, as the description said, with the plant life, the animals, and even the weather as you go along. And you do that sometimes intentionally, sometimes sort of automatically or just by happenstance. So you have multiple different ways that you can swim. You have multiple different strokes, basically. You can do a backstroke, or more I don't know the word for it. You can swim more like a breaststroke, I guess. 3 or 4 different ways to go. And as you're swimming, you'll come across all sorts of animals and stuff, schools of fish, turtles, frogs, birds, everything. And, you might swim through a school of fish and they'll be like, oh, and they'll just kind of like latch onto you and follow you and swim alongside you. And maybe when you get to the end of the river, they'll like swim downriver with you. It's just kind of like a testing at the various things in the riverbed and just kind of seeing how things interact.
There's no, and I know this is going to sound demeaning towards this game, and I'm not meaning it to. There's no specific reason to do that other than to see it happen, right? Like there's no objective that says, or achievement that says maybe, right? Oh, get the turtles to follow you or something like that.
There is. If you want to be a task-oriented person, you can be, because the game keeps track of every plant and animal that you interacted with and everyone that is available in any given level, and it keeps a log. And there is an achievement for like interacting with every single one of them. There's actually a surprisingly large number of collectibles that some of them are hard to find, but most of them are just kind of like experiential. But you'll find, like I just mentioned, you'll find animals, plant life that you can interact with. You'll find like these hidden little tide pools that will give you like a verse of poetry that builds like a poem that you unlock over the course of the game. You'll be able to come sometimes across humans that are like sitting right on the shoreline. It might be the same human every time. He's playing a guitar. And when you swim up to him, you as NAIAD can also sing. You have a button that just does like a little like type like single note song. Very Wander Song, if you ever played that game. It's like on a colorful 8-directional sound grid, basically. And the guy will play a little guitar tune, and if you mirror that same song back to him, you'll unlock that song that you can then sing at any time. And sometimes the song will do something, sometimes it won't. Like sometimes it's a song that will make it rain, or sometimes it's a song that'll make like cherry blossom petals blow in the wind or something like that. And sometimes it's just like a nice little song, but you can collect all those. And then there's also, sort of tied to some of those collectibles, you will find these hidden... This is like the more exploration side of things. So you'll find the ability to basically upgrade your character. And so I'll give you an example like top to bottom, which will make it make a little bit more sense. And just kind of gives you an idea of how the flow of this game works. Let's say I'm swimming down the river and I see like some frogs, and I swim past them and they don't interact with me at all. I'm like, okay, but then I swim back and I try a different stroke. Maybe I switch to the breaststroke. And now the frogs are like, oh, you're swimming more like how I swim. I'm going to follow you kind of like you're my mom.
Okay.
Now the frogs are following you. You can guide them places, and maybe you guide them over to like some unoccupied lily pads. And once you get all the frogs onto this ring of lily pads, the game will like, blow a little gust of wind that shows you, oh, hidden kind of invisibly off to the side of the map here is a hidden cave that you can swim through. And if you go through that cave, then you'll find like a little magical music note, and that music note will update or upgrade NAIAD's abilities. Or maybe you'll find like another animal, like a bigger animal, like a deer or something like that, and you'll get like gifted a little bit of the power of that animal that lets you now swim faster, or lets you move through seaweed without getting slowed down, stuff like that. None of them are upgrades that you strictly need to beat the game, and some of them might be required. If there's any that are needed to beat the game, you'll forcibly and naturally come across them. It's not like, I don't want to make it sound like a gated exploration, because it's certainly not that, but there's just a lot of little things to discover that either only mean something to someone if they're a checklist keeper or a trophy hunter, or if they just like the act of discovery. It's not the type of game where like, it's not like a gated exploration where you're specifically seeking out upgrades because you want to increase your missile capacity and your health bar. Like there's not much utility to the things you find. So, I mean, really, how much enjoyment you get out of this one is going to come down to how much you can get lost in that experience. Like how much you can just kind of like go at the speed of the game. Because like I said, you'll be able to swim across the levels really, really fast. But if you're poking around the edges, you're playing with the plant life and the animals, you're trying to figure out how to get them to interact with you, if they even do interact with you, you'll probably spend a couple minutes into each level. And like I said, there's a lot of levels, so that'll add up across the course of the game to probably like a 5-6-ish hour playtime. So not crazy long, but not insubstantial either for something like this. And honestly, I think the main reason that most people will play this is for the like audio-visual package that you're vibing along to. It is very much like just a gorgeous game to be in and like gorgeous to explore. First off, it has it's got this art style. I don't even know how to describe it. To me, it's like a little pixel art meets like a little bit of almost like cutout construction paper in certain ways.
Yeah, it's like everything has like a little bit of dithering around the edge, right? To kind of like fuzz it out a little bit in a nice, pleasing way.
Yeah, it gives me some painted feel. The funny thing is, the second I saw, I think I had looked at this game a little bit whenever you had talked about it on Polykill, Steve, but the second I looked at it again, it made me think about, Josh just mentioned that Lush Foil game, right? And how incredible it looks. It looks absolutely incredible. Like, has there ever been a game that looked better or more realistic? But then you have a game like this that is completely 180 the other direction, but still looks incredible. So it's just, there's so many ways to make a game look really good. And this just kind of proves it.
Yeah. And there's so much attention to detail that goes into this game. Like I said, I think there's like 12 or 15 chapters in the game, and chapters will be built of like 2 to 4 individual levels in some cases. So, there's 30 plus stages in this game for you to go through. And there's a huge amount of variety in terms of the environmental locations. You'll go through forests. You'll go through kind of more open, almost ocean type areas. You'll go through caves. You'll go through like waterways built through human civilization and riverside towns and stuff like that. Like artificial man-made constructions. And all of it is so bright and so colorful. It's definitely a game that is not afraid of color. My touch point for the like color palette of this game is going to be very specific to people. But if you like the intro 30 minutes of Chrono Cross on the PlayStation 1 and you like that beachside scene, that is the same energy that they're bringing here. It's like, even though it's riverbed, there is kind of a tropical energy to it, like almost a coral reefy type of energy. There's a lot of vibrant, rich like blues and greens and pinks everywhere. It's given Chrono Cross. I'm telling you that right now, which is what you want.
That is a fantastic touch point because, like, honestly, for years, I had never really thought about it that way, but I had, some vision in my head that's like, if a game could bottle the Chrono Cross intro, because Chrono Cross itself is quite divisive, right? There's plenty of people who love it, plenty of people who like it less so, right? But that intro and that music and those graphics and that intro are like widely known to be absolutely incredible. So that is a great, if this is even close to that, must be amazing. I love that.
Yeah, I was looking at, I have never played Chrono Cross. For that very reason, everyone's like, that game, it's skippable. That's one of those things. I love Chrono Trigger, so maybe I should check it out. But anyway, I just was watching some of the gameplay, and that is such a perfect, and it's like basically the same vibe from the video I'm seeing here. Yeah, so it's pretty awesome.
That intro gets you so hyped for that game. It is so good. It's like a mini trailer or something. It's incredible. But anyway.
Different argument for a different podcast, but I will stand here and I'll tell you that Chrono Cross should not be divisive. That game rules, all right? It's good from top to bottom. One of the all-time greats, but I don't know. It's not even a Polykill argument. I got to start a third new podcast to argue that point somewhere. Right. I'll figure out where to make that case.
It's just like Chrono Cross, the argument, and that's the name of the show. And that's every episode is like each chapter of the... Okay, I'll stop.
Part 7.
Every 2 weeks, I sitting there in the shower getting worked up, and I'm like, I'm about to go hit record and give them 40 minutes of a piece of my mind. All right? Trying to tell me you don't like freaking the little alien guy that you meet in the Bermuda Triangle? Come on. But yes, back to NAIAD. Gorgeous game. Very, very nice to just kind of flow through. And the soundtrack does a lot to complement that too. This is definitely the type of music that you would put on to like relax in the background while you're studying or like doing some work that requires a little bit more focus, where you don't want it to be pulled away. It's a lot of like, you can imagine light little kind of twinkly piano melodies, but they do a lot of good variation in the instrumentation, and really the music kind of ebbs and flows along with the game. The music complements really well with the fact that you're hearing a lot of river and animal sounds, right? Like you're hearing birds chirping, you're hearing water sloshing against rocks and things like that. Little sounds of like plants blooming that they've added and things like that. And the music pairs with that so well that it might almost be one of those games where removing the soundtrack from the rest of the game, where you'd be like, it's like missing something now, because I'm used to it being such a full sound set in combination with all that other stuff, especially the sound of you like kicking your feet and swimming, which is just essentially constant little water splashes as you go. So, but yeah, I don't even know that the soundtrack is on YouTube. I was trying to find it earlier today and I couldn't easily find it. I found some trailers, but nothing else. So if NAIAD soundtrack is out there, I apologize, I didn't find it in advance, but I'd love for it to be there, because sometimes we release episodes where I like to share songs from games that have good music. So
you can actually buy the soundtrack on the Steam page, which I'm looking at right now. So there you go.
There you go. So go do that. Heck yeah. And I should have mentioned at the top, I think this is on most platforms. I know for sure it's on PC and it's on PlayStation. I played it on PlayStation, obviously. Don't even worry about that platinum trophy. It is on lock.
I imagine it's not the hardest one in the world.
No, but it's surprisingly like, it's not free. Like you do have to go and like do a lot of the collection stuff. There is a really generous chapter select at the end for people that are a little more like collection minded, where you can go back and see exactly what levels you've missed stuff in and what type of things you've missed. And again, the levels themselves are pretty small, so it doesn't usually take too terribly long to find something when you're seeking it out. There might be a couple instances where like you couldn't get something unless you got a power later, but I think it would all theoretically be obtainable as you went along just fine. So yeah, so that's the breakdown on NAIAD. Any other questions around that one before we quest log it?
Yeah, my main question was, does it have like a journey, like emotional moment at the end or anything like that? Are you like tearing up at the end from how emotional it is, or is it more just like, I'm just chilling, this game's gonna make me relax? Because I see this was on the like a wholesome game thing, so this is more like a, hey, I'm just kicking my feet up for an evening and playing through this and relaxing type of vibe? Or does it have that emotional like gut punch at the end or anything like that?
I would say it probably falls somewhere in between those two things you described. It is not an artsy game in the like traditional sense of like a journey or something where you're building up to this huge emotional payoff and people are gonna like have videos of them like being impacted by the ending. But the story does close the loop, and that's not to say it's not emotional at all. It's just maybe it's better to say it's not explicitly just trying to make you cry. Like it is maybe satisfying in a different way, but there is certainly a payoff. And the ending, I will say, the ending's interesting. They play a little bit with the idea of the game in the very final moments where you're like, oh, this is kind of a neat, not even subversion, but just like a neat twist on what I've been doing, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Which maybe to be expected, but yeah, it's not like completely free emotionally, but it's not too bad.
I think more a comment than a question, but I played for bingo last year, but I played Feather. And Feather gets knocked a lot for being this 20-minute game where you're not really like it's kind of cool. It's more of an experience than anything. But I think NAIAD kind of takes, based on what you've said and screenshots I've seen and things like that, I think it takes that kind of freedom, stress relief, and turns it into more of a, you're a little bit more gated off so you can actually play a game. It doesn't feel like you're just floating around. And I like that about it. I think that's a very good thing. Feather could have used more of that, so it felt more gamey and less, I did this and now I'm done. I never feel like I have to think about it or do it ever again. So
yeah, totally. And that's why I use Flower as the touch point, because Flower was like level-based structure. There's things to find in the levels. Even Flower, in terms of like story and stuff, like it's telling you a story, and there is some emotional impact to the story that Flower is telling, but it's not one, again, that you're gonna like, dwell on as one of the all-time great emotional twists or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, then I guess we'll go ahead and we'll place it on the quest log. Now, I'm sure you fellas do it. I do it too. You're listening to someone talk, and you're temperature checking. You're like, I think I know where this one's going. I think I have a sense. But I bamboozled you because I withheld a little bit of information.
Ooh.
Just a tinge.
Oh.
So this one ultimately for me is going to be a side quest. It's a great side quest, but it's going to be a side quest. And I think that it's because, honestly, I hate to knock it for this, but the reality is it's almost too much of a good thing. Like, the loop of this game, I was kind of like content with at maybe a little over halfway through the game. And then it felt like it kind of just kept going and kept going. I think if they had pared down to like their 75% best ideas and cut the last 25% out, it would maybe be a little bit more natural of a flow and a little more enjoyable, especially because I don't want to spoil like mechanically, but I will say they do introduce some like quote unquote like hazards at like the 2/3 mark in the game that they really just serve to slow the game down. Like, they're not threatening, but they do slow the pace a little bit. It's kind of like I forget the word for it, but when like they intentionally, when like a civic engineer intentionally builds roads to like curve to force you to slow down so you can't like gun at full speed. It's like they're manipulating me.
Yeah, it's like when you're 3/4 of the way into an RPG and somebody says, "Okay, we're to the town we told you to go to, but I'm gonna need you to go back to that last town."
Yeah,
and then make your way back there, and then I'll see you again in about an hour. That it's like, stop it, please. It's just all you're doing is adding that hour on to the gameplay. I understand what you're trying to do here. So,
yeah, totally. So, if you're the type of person, which is a little different, I think, from how the three of us interact with games. If you're the type of person that just like dips in and out of games, as soon as you hit some friction you're not enjoying, or you've had your fill, you move on to the next one. You're not like as concerned about finishing it, or you're not completionist minded or anything like that. I think you can have a main quest experience just even playing the first half of this game, and you'll kind of get the full loop. You'll get everything you want to out of it, and you'll leave very satisfied. I just think it a little bit overstays its welcome in an otherwise great experience. That said, I gobbled this game up in like 2 big sittings, like 2 3-hour play sessions. So it's not like I wasn't enjoying my time with it. I wish that there was a little bit less that made me appreciate all the rest of it a little bit more. But strong side quest, great game. Highly recommend people go check out NAIAD.
Awesome.
Well, I will go next if that's okay.
Yeah, cool.
No.
No?
You're not going at all today, Josh.
You just hear the Discord log off sound and I'm just out of here. All right, so I played a game called BZZZT. Have you guys heard of this game?
Yeah.
So it's spelled B-Z-Z, 3 Z's and then a T. B-Z-Z-Z-T.
I'm glad you brought it because I feel like this was one of those I was thinking like, which one of us is going to bring this eventually? I don't know when it's going to come, but it's going to come. Cool. So, I'm excited to hear.
It is a precision platformer in the vein of Celeste or Super Meat Boy or Splatformer, as we would lovingly like to call that genre. You play as a robot named ZX. So there's some Mega Man style story in the background, which I know is just playing on like the Mega Man tropes and things in the storyline of that. There's a bad guy called Bad Bert. It's a very tongue-in-cheek Saturday morning cartoon style story. That's pretty much all I'll probably say about the story. It's not the most deep story. There's a big bad boss guy that hooks his brain to a machine that turns an AI that you have to stop, basically. That's basically the whole storyline, and it's kind of in the background as you're going through these really excellent platforming challenges. So the pixel art is what I want to mention first. It's very bright, very colorful, very beautiful. It's one of the better looking pixel art games I've played in quite some time, I would say.
Seriously, that's the thing I noticed about this game whenever I looked into it in the past. The depth, like the field of view, you can see so far into the background of this 2D platformer. It just looks so good. Some of the best pixel art I've ever seen.
Lots of colors, very bright, very visually stimulating, I would say.
Yeah.
You're going to be in these stages for a while. It's very much one of those you die and you're starting this room over again type of game. So having amazing visuals, and I'm going to be honest, this is one of the best like soundtracks I've heard in a game in quite some time too. Like, you're going to be toe tapping, and there's a lot of variety in the tracks too. Each stage has its own, like, either own track or at least a variation on a track. And it's just like you go to like a jungle area, you're just reminded instantly, oh yeah, this is DKC vibes right now. You know, you go to like more technological looking area, you're feeling a little bit more Mega Man. I know there's a lot of inspiration from some retro games thrown into this from that angle, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful to look at and to listen to, which is completely the opposite of the gameplay, I'd say.
I mean, you could say a lot of that same stuff about Celeste, right? Like, gorgeous, beautiful, colorful pixel art, and then just brutally difficult.
Yeah, brutally difficult.
Wants to hurt you. Yeah.
Yeah, so the main game comes with, you have some movesets that slowly unlock as you play the game. There are 50 main stages to beat the main story. And then after that, there, I think, are about 50 more stages you can unlock. There are little, like, wrenches around the entire world. Each area has, like, so there'll be, like, a wrench counter that's the collectible in it. Or not wrenches, screws or bolts, I guess. Whatever, bolt counter at the top. So say the stage has 16 bolts, you have to get all 16 in that area to get 100% for that stage. And as you get more of those, you can get things to unlock later stages and like secret stages and stuff, which is a pretty good like added thing. I played through the whole game without even bothering with that. At some point, like I was like playing, I'm like, I'm getting them all. And then after a while, it's kind of like the strawberries in Celeste. You're like, I'll just leave them and I'll come back later whenever I know the stages a little bit more, or I unlock another power or something like that, right? So,
it is very much. I had the same experience with Celeste, right? I'm getting the strawberries. Like, this isn't too bad. And then you get to a point where it's like, oh, I'm absolutely smacking my head against the wall over and over again. I've been here for 20 minutes. I kind of just want to play the game right now, and I can come back and do this later. Like it's
There's a couple stages where you're like, so you'll get to like these little like teleport pads to finish off that stage, and then there's a teleport pad, and then you can see like this offshoot to go get a bunch of those little bolts, and you're like, do I just complete the stage, or do I try this out, and then maybe you'll try it a couple times and die and just keep hitting your head against the wall and starting over at the beginning of the stage, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna beat it this time. I'll come back later, but there is the main jump, there's a double jump, there's a dash ability that you unlock early on, and then from there they do ramp up and add a couple of more abilities, which I won't spoil, but very reminiscent, I would say, of like a Celeste, where like as you go along you will get more powers to play in the game and have more challenges to do. I think one of the cooler ones that they do unlock, I would say probably within the first 15 stages, is you get like a little round like circle that you can jump on, and it has like a little up arrow in it. If you hit it, you get infinite jumps for a short period, so it's kind of nice. You hit that and then you kind of have to like do like very precise like jump to get to the top, and it just feels very nice and very good to play. This game plays excellent. Like as soon as you get your fingers on the sticks, you're like, oh my god, this is so good. This is just exactly what I'm looking for this style of game. Plays good, and it's crunchy. The sound effects are great. When you die, you explode and makes a really satisfying sound even when you die, which is always nice. But I will say, the main difficulty option in this game is the normal difficulty. You do not have any lives per level, and the levels are pretty long. So if you die, you're going back to the beginning of that stage. Which can be frustrating because it's kind of a gauntlet, especially when you get to like stage 25 plus. You're like, this is like a 3 to 4 minute stage, which is a long time in a platforming game, and then you're dying at the end and you have to start at the very beginning, and you're like, okay, let's do this, and you get that muscle memory. So that's a lot of this game is, all right, what do I do next? Okay, I died, all right, let's start over, but do it again, and it's just kind of that rinse repeat until you just nail it. So if you're into that style, that's here for this game. So But they do have difficulty options to make it a little bit easier if you want to jump in and you're not as savvy in this genre. They have an easy mode, which adds 3 hits. So you have 3 hits you can take in the level. Or they have like a story-based mode, which is 5 hits plus less enemies in the stage and less traps. So they kind of thought it through. I was thinking, when I was playing this game, I'm like, this is just too hard for most people. I think most people would probably play up to like halfway point and be like, I'm done. This is too much. But they add that little bit of leeway there. So if you want to decrease the difficulty or even just play on the easier difficulties, the whole experience, you have that option.
Are you able to change it any time, Josh? Like if I started?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, even if say I wanted to get I was like, I want to get the achievement on my account that says I beat the normal difficulty. That was kind of my goal. I was like, I want to do this without decreasing it at all. And I did manage to roll credits like that. The last stage is the last boss fight. There's like 4 boss fights in the game that do change up the gameplay a bit. And that one was brutal. I would say I was probably spent like an hour just on that boss, which, and in a 5 or 6 hour game, that's, a good chunk of it, 20% of the game, just trying to beat that last boss. So yeah. But you can do the thing where if you're like stuck on a stage, you can just decrease the difficulty for that stage, beat the stage, and then go to the next one and then increase it again.
So if you do, just for the achievement chasers out there, if you do that, does it automatically scrub that normal from your, or do you know?
I was kind of like not wanting to risk it, so I didn't even bother. Honestly, I was like, I just want that thing to say I beat this really tough game on my profile.
I would be absolutely be in that exact same boat where I would pull up the options, I would stare at it, and then I would close out of the menu and go right back to playing that.
It's like, no, I got this. I can get there. Yeah. But I found this game very enjoyable for a pick up and play. Like, it was nice just to have a game where I was kind of just chewing on, between things. Like, I could play it through 3 stages for 20, 25 minutes and then have my fill, turn it off, come back to it. So this was one I was kind of chewing on for about a month here and there. So I was like, oh, maybe like we were all talking in the Discord, like, do you have a game that you're going to bring? And I was like, well, maybe I'll just finish up this thing since I'm partially through it anyway. And so it to me, it's a really great one of these platforming challenges games. I feel like there are areas where some people might say it's a little bit BS, but to me, I feel like it actually is pretty fair. Like, I think the level design isn't impossible and isn't so hard where you're just like, this, how do you do this? You'll figure it out. It's just you got to be determined, and that's this genre in a nutshell anyway. So I think both of you guys would enjoy this game just from that difficulty level and this how good it plays and how crisp it is.
Yeah, as long as it's consistent and it's fair and it's not too random, then the difficulty is kind of the point, right? Like it feeling a little BS is kind of the point.
Yeah, it will kick your teeth in a couple times. You'll get to a stage where there's a new mechanic, and it might take you like 10 times to figure out even how to get past that first area of that stage. But once you get past it, you get that muscle memory, and it kicks in, and you're like, I got this. I'm kicking ass, And then there are a ton of secrets in the levels. I've noticed, like, there's like a pit. I fell down, and then I'm just in a secret area, like out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is a secret, it's a whole new area, and basically extends the level ×2, and then unlocks some new things. So it's like, it has that level of detail where it's like, if you're kind of picking around on the stages, you can probably find some secrets and some death counters hidden in the corner that kind of lead to new areas of this, like, double the challenge of that room, which is pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
Awesome.
So I don't have much more to say about this game. It's pretty easy and set in stone what it is. It's a nice, solid puzzle platformer with great art style, I would say a fun story that's it's very surface level. Like I said, like it's like you're watching a Saturday morning cartoon, nothing like that you're going to be pondering about. It's not 1,000 Times Resist or anything, but it's a fun story. You're going to get a couple of chuckles out of it. The music's awesome. The gameplay is really well done. Any questions?
None from me. No,
I don't think so. I think it's interesting. You kind of compared it to Meat Boy and Celeste, but then like those games live on that almost single screen death restart. So I think it's kind of interesting that this goes in a more traditional way where you actually have to go through the stages in one life, which is kind of cool. Right.
Yeah. And I would say like it might be almost feel kind of like a mix of that and like I said, like a Mega Man or something. Because like the stages do have some legs to them. And I honestly feel like they should rename the difficulty options. Like the main option should maybe say hard. You know, I feel like that would get people in a little bit more because, like, I feel like I played the hard mode of the game. There's no difficulty level above that I saw or unlocked. So I feel like that's the hardest difficulty is the base level difficulty that I want you to play it at. So it's kind of like one of those things where, like, yeah, we know what you sickos are into. You want to bang your head against the wall. You want to die 500 times, you know, in this game. So it's pretty much what they're aiming for. But I think if you guys have no other questions, I'll jump into my verdict here. I think that this game is one of those ones I had to think about a lot for main quest and side quest because of that difficulty layer, but I'm going to put it on a main quest because of the difficulty options that they add. Yeah. So if you are you're into one of those you're curious about the genre, I feel like this is a good one to pick up, and it's pretty cheap. It's like 10 or $15, and it's usually on sale for half that most of the time when I looked it up. So you probably grab this for $5. And if you're interested in like the really hard precision platformer genre, get this game, put it on like easy, and just see if that's your thing. I think this is a good entry point.
I might pick this game up like right after we're done recording because as of right this second, I can't say this. I should look and see if there's a timer because sometimes there is on Steam, but right this second it is $4.79, which seems like a heck of a game for that much money. 60% off.
Up through March 12th. So it's either going to be right as this episode releases or right before the episode goes live. It'll end. But either way, there's a chance.
Also, Steam sale is like 2 weeks away or something, or like a week away. So I'm sure they'll like go back on sale again right away. So it's one of those you can get really cheap. I think like, yeah, if you're playing on the normal mode and you're not used to this style of game, you might hate it. I'll just be honest with you. But if you're interested in the genre or if you're a fan of the genre, maybe, you know, mess around with the difficulty options. I thought I beat the game and I put it down with the 3 lives thing and just to see what it would do. And it's like, you know, it's the same thing. You can explode 3 times and keep on going, which is nice to beat the level.
The only other thing I'll say that is kind of cool is I'm looking at the Steam page and it says on like the title card or whatever you call it, it says bonus stages update 1.3, which tells me that they are continuously adding more and more to this 2-year-old or 1.5-year-old game. So that's kind of cool, right? They're still sticking with it. They still are improving it. So that's always a nice little additional bonus to the games that we bring when the developers are still working on it. They love it that much.
Another nice thing about it, it's not developers, it's developer. It's just one guy made this game, which is even nice, even better because the music's so good and everything about it is such a nice, beautiful experience. So
for sure,
love to give a shout out for that one person dev team. You know, more talented than I'll ever be. You know,
yeah,
so
same.
Well, this puts a lot of pressure on you, Seth, because we're 2 solo developer games, both of which are 5 letters long, stylized in all caps. So you have a very specific niche you need to hit with the game you're bringing. But I trust that you understood the assignment and brought us something appropriate.
Could we have possibly made a title out of that exact 5-letter? I doubt it, but it would have been cool if we could. And I am unfortunately shattering that niche that we had going on because I brought a little game, and it is quite a little game. I went to Austin. I can't remember if we were talking at the beginning of this or not, but I went to Austin, Texas for a work trip this week. And I did not have a whole lot of time. Usually I try to save my IndieQuest games till, the week before we record if I can, or if it's a longer game, I'll start it earlier. But I had not started a game. So I needed to kind of go into my backlog, into my Steam library and see what was in there that was fairly quick, that I've been waiting around for just this type of time frame for me to dig into. So, with all that said, I played a little game that I doubt you guys have probably heard of. I'll be surprised if you had. It's called Refresh. Specifically, there is a colon between the re and the fresh. So if you just type in refresh game, I don't even know if it'll come up, but if you put that colon in there, you'll probably find it.
I mean, it's pretty close to 5 letters. Refresh. It's not that far off, you know?
Yeah, if you ignore the refresh.
I expected you to pull like a Coheed and Cambria, a good Apollo on Burning Star 4, Volume 1 from View Through the Eyes of Madness or something over here.
No, I've never heard of this. I will say I'm looking at screenshots. Looks pretty good. Looks like I would enjoy it.
Yeah. This is definitely upon viewing screenshots. Definitely a Steve S. game, and absolutely a game that, Josh, I know you would also, based purely on like the vibe of it, I know you would also like it.
Sweet.
So, it was released April 24th, 2023, developed by Merge Conflict Studio, which is not a one-man team, one-man crew. It is several people. And it was on, so it currently is only on PC from what I can tell, but I saw some stuff where it seems like it might be getting a Switch release, which also kind of maybe shows like a physical on the horizon, which would be nice. I don't see anything outside of Switch, so if it does come to Switch, maybe we do get a physical, maybe we don't, whatever. But as of right now, it is on PC. And I'll just say right now, I already mentioned it's a pretty small game. It is $5 at full price. And I think I bought this for like $2.50 at some point. So the reason this is a Steve-ass game is because it is a non-violent 3D platformer collectathon. So think this game specifically reminds me so much in its, not necessarily its aesthetic, but I guess its main character, right? Almost looks like a feminine-leaning Astrobot a little bit. So that is very much. I don't even know if you actually have a name in this game. I can't remember if you do, but it's never said really who you are, or just other than you are a town person in this little town, and you wake up after this storm that happens, and I'll get to more of that as we go through some of the story. But you guys are looking at screenshots. This is what I would call almost a GameCube Plus or PS 2.5 type game. Like that's really what the graphical style reminds me of. I think it's a little bit too good. The reason I was thinking initially when I was bringing it, like, this is definitely like PS2, PS 2.5 or whatever, but the colors, right? There's a decent amount of like the pasteliness that reminds me so much of GameCube, like, or even Dreamcast or something like that. Like it goes in that direction more than so many of the PS2. Even platformers are a little bit more edgier in a lot of cases. So this reminds me of that. Very soft, very cozy, early 2000s platformer experience that we used to get. So I mentioned Astrobot. It kind of reminds me, especially the NPCs remind me of like an Astrobot crossed with like Animal Crossing style. Like it gives me that vibe.
Totally.
Yeah, it's when I look at it, if you kind of like fuzz your vision a little bit, I could definitely say like, oh, Wind Waker with a question mark, like kind of lean in that way a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
The game that it does have the Sega Blue Skies. Something about it reminds me of like outdoor A Hat in Time.
Oh,
yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I've not played that game, but I remember looking at it at some point. I think, Josh, did you bring A Hat in Time?
Yeah, I did.
So the heads-up display or the UI or whatever you want to call it, right? On screen, you can see various things like the items that you have collected so far. In the top right corner, there are pieces of wood, wire, and gears that you can collect throughout the game. There's also a menu that you can look at, which is kind of like your journal of what current tasks you have and then tasks that you're going to have in the future. And that kind of all shows on screen. In the bottom left corner, there's also some icons, which I'll get to in gameplay, but you will collect more of what they call solar cells that very much play into how you're playing this game throughout it. So that's kind of the stuff and what it looks like on screen. I will say initially when I started playing this game, within like a minute, she was a stuttering, and I was a little bit nervous. I was like, oh boy, this is not great. Like I'm not super sensitive to stutter. Like I mean, if I notice it, it's a little annoying, but I can play a 30 FPS game no problem and not really care, right? Bloodborne's one of my favorites, and it's locked at it. Mm-hmm. But I don't love when it drops off suddenly, or if it's just like seemingly constant drops. I will say, I marked it as soon as, like, in my notes app on my phone, I marked it as soon as it started happening. It seems like after I exited out of that initial area, like the very start of the game, it stopped completely. I never noticed it again. So hopefully that's the same case for anybody else who goes into this game. I don't know why it was that way, or if it was like unoptimized in that initial area or whatever, but after I got out of there, I never had a problem again. I would say that the graphics in general are quite unassuming. It's not anything that you haven't seen before. They look very good. It's a very pretty game. It's just, it's kind of a run-of-the-mill platformer in some ways, like that 2000 style. So it's not anything that's going to blow the doors off of any other games. I would say that both of the games that you guys brought this episode have a more unique style than this one does, but it still looks very good. The music. I'm going to say much of the same thing for the music. It's good. It's chill. It's serene. It's nice to listen to. It's perfect collecting music, but it's not going to blow anybody's socks off. It's not going to blow the doors off of other games of its ilk, I suppose. It's nice. I would certainly go and probably listen to some of the songs, especially like if you're looking for that relaxing vibe. You're working or you're studying. It's great music for that. There's an area where you are scaling some cliffs later in the game where it's very windy, and that music specifically was a really good track. I enjoyed that one, but in general, it's all pretty unassuming and kind of good background music. It's kind of what you want for a game like this. The story. I mentioned at the top that there is a storm that hits your little town, and because of that, you are a robot. It's a town mixed with robots and animals for whatever reason, and your power gets shut off to yourself, right? To like your actual character does not like see anything through that storm. So you're almost like have amnesia after that. Although it really doesn't play a big factor other than, you don't remember what happened and blah, blah, blah. So, but there is an intro cutscene that shows the storm coming. The storm knocks out different parts of the town, and your goal throughout the game is to talk to NPCs and see what they need to help rebuild their house, their shops, their whatever, right? Whatever they have. Different parts of the map can only be accessed after you have actually done such a thing, so it's kind of gated exploration in that way a little bit. But for the most part, you're kind of just going up to NPCs, seeing what they have to say, and in general, they're going to say, I need this item and this item and this item, bring it back to me, and you can do that. So speaking of that, that will set us right into what are you actually doing while you're playing this game. You can, as I mentioned, you're going to be collecting stuff. So you're going to be collecting the wood, the wire, and the gears. And every NPC will say, I need 5 wood, 2 wire, 1 gear. Go and find that stuff, and you're going to have to go do that. So it's a little bit fetch questy in that way. But I will say something I initially noted down, like, okay, this is going to be quite fetch questy. But it isn't really. You can literally not talk to any NPCs and just go around and collect everything you can see, then go back and talk to everybody, right? And you're going to after the first one, I just started doing that. Like, okay, I want to go collect everything first. I'll go talk to everybody and kind of like, here you go. And then you complete all the quests right at once, right? So it's nice that it doesn't lock you off from that or not allow you to move forward. Generally, for every area, you have like 3 NPCs that ask for things, right? So you kind of know where they are, and they have like an exclamation point above their head. And it's like, okay, I'll be back to you in a little bit. I'm going to go actually collect stuff. So as in most platformers, you can jump, you can run, and you can dash. The honestly very unique piece of this game, in a lot of these games you get a lot more abilities than that. This game's runtime, which I'll get to in a minute, doesn't really allow for a lot of abilities, so I kind of like how they set this game up. I mentioned at the top or earlier on that in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you can see these things called solar cells. You can collect these as you play the game, and there's even a portion that's almost like heart pieces where you can collect 4 pieces of solar cells and you can get an extra tank that way. But in general, you're going to find these tanks as you go through the game. And each time you get one, it allows for an extra double jump. So you can then be triple jumping or an extra dash in air. And you don't get dash right away, so that's like minor spoilery, but this, I'll just say it now, this game's runtime is a little over an hour. So nothing's a huge spoiler in this game. But you can collect like 10 of those solar cells. So you could just be boop, 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 jumping way up high, which is honestly really cool. And also something that will probably perk Steve's ears up even more is there is some, especially early on, some like fun jank situations where clearly there are sections of this game that are designed for more solar cells, but you can kind of like wiggle your way and do things to get to places you're not supposed to get to until later on. And I kind of love that.
It's so funny. Literally my next question for you was going to be, what's the amount of jank in this game? Because even just looking at the trailer, and that's an affectionate question. Most people that listen to the show know that from me, that is an affectionate question. But even just looking at the trailer, I can just tell like something about the movement and like the slopes and stuff. Like this seems like the type of game where I am like triple jumping and standing on a teeny tiny tree branch or a little like outcropping or where 2 polygons meet and I shouldn't be able to stand there. It has that energy to it. It like, it'd make a really good speed run, it feels like, because like it seems like I could cheat the system really well.
I will say that there's a forest area, and in each of these areas, there's like a huge tower that like provides electricity to that area. So I had gotten enough solar cells that I'm like, I bet I can get to the top of that tower. And turns out I did get to the top of it. There's nothing there, but it's kind of like I did it type of thing. I got all the way up there and I can like look down and very clearly I'm not supposed to be up here because I'm standing on the top of the tower, but the actual top of the tower is like one of my character's height away from that. Like I'm standing on nothing basically, right? Like I'm just on like this random whatever. You're not actually supposed to be there. But it's just really cool that you can actually do that. And that I love that about this game. Because of all the solar cells that you can collect, it feels like you can almost go anywhere and there's not really any boundaries. So outside of jumping into water, just automatically resets you on the shoreline. But yeah, I mean, you can go wherever you want, do whatever you want in this game. And I love that about it. It's a very short experience, but very cool because of the freedom it allows, especially once you start collecting solar cells. And then you go back to previous areas after you've gotten a bunch of them and you're just like going all over the place, shooting all around, combining jumps and dashes. So you're just flying across the screen. It's a very cool feeling. And yeah, I mean, there is jankiness, but at the same time, nothing was game breaking that I found. And it's very much in the vein of fun jank. Like, how can I break this game? I did not find a way to break it, but at the same time, it allows you to do fun things that they didn't intend or they didn't take out if they knew it was there. So
this has the energy of a game where like if I dashed the same frame that I hit like a downward slope, that it would like quadruple my momentum or something weird like that. Like it just seems like the slippery physics would be one of those things where you could toy with them and figure out how to launch yourself to the top of the mountain somehow.
Yes, exactly. I didn't try to find any of that stuff, I guess, but it would be fun upon a replay to just see where I can shimmy into somewhere that I'm not supposed to be. I certainly went through certain areas like walk through cliffside or something where it's like I'm inside the graphical. But like I said, nothing game breaking and very cool all around. Especially, like I said, I had all achievements without even trying. I beat this game and got all achievements in exactly 1.5 hours. So if you are looking for that short 3D platform experience where it's, like I said, it's pretty darn unassuming. It's not trying to be anything. It kind of shows you exactly what it is in the few screenshots or trailer that you can see. If you're looking for that kind of game, it has everything to offer for you. Honestly, it almost feels, and I'm not trying to say this is a knock on it, but it feels a little bit demo-y, like they were putting this out there to see if there was enough interest to then make a bigger version of this game. And I would say I hope they do, because I enjoy the style. I enjoy everything that this game has going on. They could probably add another couple extra abilities if they want to. Although I will say, I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was bad that they did exactly what they did with the abilities. It's really cool to just jump a million times. So, like, that's kind of fun. So I don't need a hook shot. In every game like this, right? So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think that will end up bringing me to where I'm putting it on the quest log, unless you guys have any other questions about Refresh.
No other questions. It seems like a nice, like, to me, it feels like 3D platformer, a short hike in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I did go look at the speedrun.com leaderboards. The any % speedrun is just under 10 minutes, and the 100% speedrun is 11 minutes and 9 seconds.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's doable nice and quick.
Yes, you're almost always going to kind of come across everything you need in a playthrough. I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody that really doesn't want to spoil it, but there are certain little things like off the beaten path type stuff that you kind of have to go and look for if you want to get that 100%, but it doesn't really take much.
Yeah.
Speaking of off the beaten path, this is how it kind of feels demo-y to me. We are at the verdict now. There are certain places in this game where I would start walking and be like, oh man, there's definitely going to be something hidden over here, and just nothing. Right? It's just like a wide open field behind a cliff, and it's like, why is this here? It really doesn't, like, they could have cut this off. Yeah. It doesn't need to be here. So that's a little bit of a detraction. Also, this game being an hour, like, you could literally finish this game in like 45 minutes if you're not trying. Well, you can obviously finish it in 10 minutes if you really want to, but even if you're like going at a leisurely pace, you can finish it in 45 minutes. If you don't care to talk to everybody, if you don't care to find everything, you could probably get this done in less than an hour. And like I said, I got absolutely everything in an hour and a half. So with all that, I am going to affectionately put this on the side quest. I think that this is one of those side quest games. It's like, yeah, that's what the developer was going for. It's this short, bite-sized, fun game, and I think it's a little bit of a preview into hopefully what this developer is kind of planning for the future, because they could absolutely spin this into multiple areas. You know, this section that you play in this game could be one world of so many other stages, right? So, very cool, very fun game, short. It's kind of fun to just jump into a game that's going to take you an hour and have a really good experience with it every once in a while. So that is Refresh, and it is on the side quest.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Saw a little bite size. There's nothing wrong. Like you said, there's nothing wrong with the game. It's like, yeah, I got an hour tonight. What am I going to do? Oh,
right.
Well, it's on sale for $2. Let's grab it and just get through it and just enjoy the evening, right?
Yep. For sure.
All right, so we had 3 games today. This feels like a classic episode, by the way. We're getting underneath the hour and a half. That's a first in like 4 months or something?
Yeah,
anyway.
It's been a while.
But anyway, we got 3 games today. We got NAIAD, which is, you put that on the main quest, right? Or side quest?
Side quest.
Okay. You kind of you did the little trickery thing there because it sounded like a main quest the whole time until the end. Okay. Anyway. And then we got BZZZT, which is a main quest. BZZZT. I always put too many Z's. 3 Z's and a T. B, 3 Z's and a T.
There you go.
It's easier to read than say out loud, I found. Anyway, and then we got that was a main quest from me, which was a close main quest, but it was on a main quest. And then we had Refresh, which was a nice, cozy side quest.
Heck yeah.
Solid.
Awesome stuff.
Well, I guess that's going to do it for our show. I feel like there's more to the show because I'm so used to talking for 3 hours with you guys now. I mean, I love talking to you guys, but anyway. This is where the segment would be campfire chat, but we don't have any submissions or any comments or anything this episode. So let's go do our plugs so you know where to submit those. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. You can find us at IndieQuest Pod on Blue Sky, or you can send us an email, IndieQuestPod@gmail.com, or you can even leave a comment on Spotify. I feel like that's a little bit more hit and miss on us actually seeing the comment. Like sometimes it sends me an email for it, sometimes it doesn't. So maybe if you want to make sure we do read the comments on the show, those are the 2 avenues I would suggest. Steve, where can they find you on the internet?
Blue Sky and Twitch is Blinkoom, Blink OOM. So come hang out. What about you, Seth?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Captain Drachma, and of course in the Polymedia Discord, best place on the internet. If you want to get into that Discord, head on over to Patreon, search up Polymedia, and come and join us in that first tier. Come chat with us. I will say I want to add on to what you were saying about where they can reach out to us, Josh. We actually haven't promoted this much, but we do have a YouTube as well. So anybody wants to listen there. The cool thing about YouTube to me is, especially anybody out there that's got like a work laptop or you're on a work computer all day, I often will use YouTube to just put like audio only stuff and listen in the background and not worry about having Spotify on my work computer or something. So it's an interesting and good avenue for that if that's what you want. You can comment there. So Josh, where can I find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky, Josh Leslie. I don't know why you would want to, but there you go. And then you can find more shows like this, nostalgia movies, video games, and things that people who listen to this show will probably enjoy at polymedianetwork.com. Well, Steve, why don't you send us out with some nice parting words today?
Before Steve talks, I'm so sorry. We have to do this again. Because we once again forgot to tell everybody what our next episode is.
That's on me because I just did the outline right before we started. That's on me. I should have had that at the top of the outline. But the next episode. Why don't you tell everybody what it is?
Oh, we are going to be revisiting the To the Moon series. So anybody out there that's like, oh man, I can't wait for Pyre. Sorry, but the To the Moon series is very dear to this show's heart. So there was a side story called The Beach episode that released at the end of last year, and we are now To the Moon boys. So we're going to get around to that as quickly as we can. We weren't able to at the end of last year just because it's so busy, and then we kind of did normal stuff because we had so many different episodes at the end of the year. So we're finally getting around to it. So if anybody out there wants to play along, we've heard it's only a couple hours. Play along if you've played the other games, because I assume there will be massive spoilers for the other games. I would not play this game if you haven't played the first three. So do that and then check this one out and come listen to our next episode.
Heck yeah. I'm looking forward to that one. We'll see you all there for the next episode. But in the meantime, I just want you all to turn that heat off, or I guess that air conditioning off. Crack open them windows. Let the sounds of rustling leaves and birds chirping come in through the windows alongside a nice light breeze. And I want you to sit down on that couch, turn on Velatro, and grind out a couple of gold steak runs. Peace out.
Heck yeah.
Bye.
Don't stop recording, boys. We need to do a 3, 2, 1.
Oh, all right.
Okay, yeah, we can.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
3, 2, 1,
go!
Perfect. All right.
Right at the end.
I was doing this, and I'm like, why aren't they doing anything? I'm like, oh, I'm the one that has to do it. My arms are up.